Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a very exciting one because I had my baby again and I know a lot of you have been waiting, so here she is. Just kidding! Marcus is supposed to be napping right now, but obviously he is not, are you? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna go get him busy and then I will introduce, oh, you guys saw her, and then I will introduce the real baby to you. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me, where have I been? Have you had your baby? And the answer is yes. I would like you all to meet little Chloe Grace. We just call her Chloe though. She was born on January 8th at 6:53 in the morning and she was 8 pounds 2 ounces. Chloe is such a sweetheart. She looks so much like her brother. If you guys go back and watch my previous labor and delivery story, you'll see how much this little girl looks like her brother, but her hair is a little bit darker. So she is such a sweetheart. She just really loves to be cuddled. Marcus was so much more independent than she is. If he had his passy and he was swaddled, he was good, and he ended up sleeping through the night like at a week old for like 7 hours, which was fantastic. She, on the other hand, she's a really good baby too, but she really just wants to be held. She just wants to be touched. She is sleeping about 5 hours from like midnight to 5 a.m., which is really nice for me. So she's not quite as good as Marcus was. But I am still thankful for that 4 to 5 hour stretch every night. So we're still working on sleep training, but I think, yeah, 5 hours is still really great. So yes, she is a sweetie. She's 3 weeks old today, and we couldn't be happier. Marcus absolutely loves her. If I'm holding her, he'll sit down on the floor in front of me because he knows that he has to sit down to hold her, and he'll just put out his arms because he wants to he wants us to put her in his arms and hold her. And it's just so sweet. He always is trying to feed her like a cereal that he's snacking on, or cheddar bunnies, or fruit snacks, and he just doesn't get that she can't have those yet. But it's so sweet to see him trying to share, and he'll always try to put her passy in her mouth, which he is just a sweet big older brother, but he's just a little bit rough. So I really have to watch them together, but he's such a great big brother, and it makes my heart so happy to have my babies together. I love having two. It's a lot more work though, I do have to say that. I'm just really happy but really busy being the mom of two. I have gone a couple places with just the two of them, but I do still really prefer to have help. But things are going really well in that aspect. The only thing I can think of to describe having a second baby is that it feels like I had to learn how to juggle, which I don't even know how to juggle, but it just feels like you have to take care of one while focusing on the other and trying to keep your house clean and there's just so much more to think about now, especially because she's still so young. So now that that is all out of the way, let's get into the labor and delivery story. First of all, I want to say that kind of obviously the purpose of this video is to introduce all of you to Chloe, but secondly, I had a really hard first pregnancy and delivery. If you guys want to watch the video, I did do this whole thing with that one as well. I'll link it down below. How hard it was really put me off to getting pregnant again. But I mean, obviously we wanted to grow our family a little bit more. So for a long time I was like, never ever doing that again. This time around was just so, excuse my voice. It was just so much easier than the last one. So much easier. I had morning sickness for about 4 weeks and I was really tired, and then that was over, and then the second trimester was like, I just felt almost normal, and the third trimester, all those pregnancy symptoms like soreness and like puffiness and stuff were really minimal. So I had a really easy pregnancy compared to my last one, which was really hard. I had preeclampsia. If you guys want to watch that video, I'll link that down below because I did film a video on it. I know it was really hard for me to hear about people's perfect labor and delivery stories when I was going through such a rough one. So go watch that video if you guys need some encouragement, or just to not feel like you're alone in having a hard pregnancy. And just know that the purpose of this video is to encourage you, like, that if you had a really hard pregnancy that made you think that you were never ever going to do this again, or a rough delivery that just left you traumatized, I just want to encourage you that every woman is different, every pregnancy for that woman is different, and don't let fear hold you back from experiencing it again, because my second pregnancy and delivery were nothing like my first. So just be encouraged that your next pregnancy could be totally different, and that you don't need to be fearful because you don't know what it's going to be like. Anyway, so my labor and delivery story. Like I said, I had a history with preeclampsia for my first pregnancy. And so every time I went in for an appointment, they were always checking my blood pressure, they were always checking my protein content in my urine, and if anything seemed a little high, they would check my blood just to make sure the platelet count wasn't low. So I got poked a lot, but thus far everything had turned out very well. Just a side note, a lot of you know that my husband got laid off from his job about 3 or 4 months ago. Because of that, our insurance switched from the hospital that I had been going to all my appointments to, delivered Marcus at, and it switched January 1st. And because of that, we had to switch hospitals last minute, which was really such a letdown. I just felt really sad about it, really, because I didn't know the hospital. I wasn't familiar with the staff there. So I went to my first appointment with the hospital and I was not impressed. I had gone and delivered Marcus at a very private hospital, and this one just felt so public and out in the open, and I just didn't like the clinic at all. And when I got there, my blood pressure was high, and so they took it again, and my second reading was low, and so I just went home. And then on January 4th is mine and Daniel's 4th anniversary, so we had a whole weekend planned. We were going to go to Portland and go out to dinner at where did we? It was the Melting Pot, which is somewhere I'd never been to, and I was really excited to go. And then we were going to stop and get breakfast at one of our favorite brunch spots, which is Pine State Biscuits. It's so good. But I got a phone call that day from the hospital, and they said because my blood pressure, the first one, was elevated, they wanted me to come in again that night as soon as I could and have my blood pressure checked again. So I was like, whatever, it's just a routine thing. We'll just go on our way to Portland. And so we stopped at the hospital, and one of my blood pressure was high, and then they checked it again and it was low, but they were really concerned that I had preeclampsia again. So the doctor came in and said that she really encouraged me to get induced and to go over to labor delivery, or at least go over there for further testing. They wanted to test my blood pressure for over an hour and then have the results sent over to the lab while we waited there. So we did that, and we ended up canceling our dinner and reservation plans that night, which was kind of really sad. We were both looking forward to it, but the doctor came in after all of this and said probably was borderline preeclampsia, but I was still very much in the safe zone. So I didn't have to be induced that night. I could go home, but they weren't comfortable with me going past 39 weeks, and at that point I was like 38 and 2 days or something. And so they gave me, it was Saturday night, and they gave me till Tuesday to go into labor naturally. I was gonna go home and try to induce myself naturally with every wives' tale in the book. And I also asked her to sweep my membranes because I had heard that kind of can naturally induce you as well. And so she did that, and she also said that I was between a 0.5 and a 1, which was probably a really good sign that my body was kind of a little bit more ready than it had been the last time around. We went home, but they also wanted me to do a 24-hour urine sample. Thank you, honey. Just to make sure the protein levels were still all right too. I bought lots of spicy chips and all that to try to get myself to go into labor naturally. And then I did the 24-hour urine test, and then we brought the results in. We went into the same room and waited there while they tested it. And they came back and said I definitely had too much protein in my urine, and that they recommended induction right away. And before I had heard that once you've had a C-section you can't be induced, so I asked them what they meant by that, because that's what my last doctor had said, and she said, well, this is a different hospital. And I just realized that even though we were so disappointed that we had switched hospitals so late in the game, I was just so grateful because God had foreseen all that, and he knew that, you know, I wouldn't even had a shot. It, like, at the other hospital, it would have been an automatic C-section because I had preeclampsia, which we thought was an unfortunate thing. Became a blessing that we had to change hospitals. And by this point, when they told me I had to be induced, I was kind of like, I had that 24 hours to kind of just sleep on it, process it, and just accept it. And I just remember just praying while they were not in the room and Daniel and I were together that, you know, I didn't want a C-section again, and I didn't want to fight it if that's what had to happen, but I did really want to try for a VBAC and just have that experience, because I mean, even though with a C-section you get the same results, and Marcus is pulling on my bed covers, you get the same results, and a healthy baby is all that matters, but there still was part of me that felt like I had missed something, like an experience that, you know, your body is kind of created for. We kind of accepted it and we headed into the room, and Daniel was of the opinion that we should just go immediately to a C-section, because if you haven't watched my previous labor and delivery story, we had been induced for 3 days, then had a C-section, then had to be in the hospital 3 more days, and it was just such a long ordeal, and it was hard on both of us, and it seemed eerily like the situation repeating itself. So I can understand why he didn't want to go through all that again, but he was really supportive that I wanted to have a VBAC. But this time around, I felt like I kind of knew how my body responded to things, and we both felt like veterans at this point. And so when we went into the room to get induced, I asked them to check me because I just wanted to know, like, if it was going to be worth it to even try. She checked me again. She said usually she doesn't get to check women 24 hours to see if there's any progression after a membrane sweep, but she said that I had progressed from about a 0.5 to a 1.5, and that things looked really good, like my body was just ready and they were just gonna help me along. So that was a really encouraging thing. And because we had gone through the whole induction process again, I was like, okay, this is how it's gonna go. Before you induce me, I want my husband to go get stuff he needs to be comfortable, get a coffee. He wanted a fitted sheet because the sheets they give you for those uncomfortable beds slips around and it makes it even more uncomfortable. And he went out and bought himself a blanket, and I just wanted him to be really comfortable because he's my support, and I just know that after about the 5th day, he no longer could cope with it without sleep and everything. So I just wanted to make sure that that night he got a good night's sleep so that he was there supporting when I needed him. Sorry, I had to run and switch babies. Chloe's asleep, but this guy needs to be kept out of trouble. Anyways, where was I? So Daniel went and got his stuff, came back, and then they started with the procedures. And I had told them also I wanted fentanyl before the Foley bulb. Last time they had given it to me after, and it was just the most uncomfortable thing that I've ever experienced, really. Yeah, just so uncomfortable that I could barely like keep it together. So I told them this time I wanted it before, and also I wanted it, I was going to hold out for the epidural as long as I could possibly stand it, because again, I've heard that an epidural can kind of slow down your labor. The longer you wait, the more likely you are to have a successful VBAC. And then that night they gave me a sleeping aid to help me get sleep through the night. And then I think it was probably early afternoon, the Foley bulb, they were about to come in and pull it out, but it fell out on its own this time, which was great. It means that my body was kind of doing its own thing. Then they started me on the Pitocin. It took a while for my contractions to get more regular. It just didn't really seem like they were kind of going anywhere. So the next step would be as soon as I had progressed far enough to break my water. But before they were able to do that, it broke on its own, which I was really very happy about. And I remember hearing a pop come across the baby monitor, like where the baby's heartbeat was. It was so loud, just like a really loud bang, and it just scared me. It was at 1:30 in the morning. It startled me awake, and the baby like jumped too. It was kind of funny. Last time around it was just like a little pop. but this time it felt like the baby had like kicked me really hard. And that's when labor really started to kick into gear. The contractions started getting really strong and painful, and so I asked for the laughing gas, the mask, to kind of take the edge off the contractions, and it just really wasn't working for me. I didn't really notice it. I mean, I'm sure it did take away some pain, but it just didn't do much. And then my contractions were still kind of irregular, and if you breathe it too long, you get really lightheaded, and I just did not like that feeling. So I only used that for like 20 minutes, so about an hour and a half after my water broke, and I was just ready for the epidural. They gave me fentanyl first, which was really nice because I'm terrified of needles, and that epidural needle just kind of scares me. So it was just like nothing to get the epidural. So they checked me again, and she said I was at a 6. Things were progressing really nicely. Anyways, so the epidural was just not really kicking in. They gave me the button to push every 15 minutes to give me that boost, but it just wasn't doing it for me, and I was in just a lot of pain. And also, as soon as my water broke, her heart rate was going down, so apparently her cord was wrapped around her in such a way that she was not happy in there, and it was really quite scary. So the midwife ended up filling me with a little bit more water to kind of alleviate some of that. And also they turned me onto my side, so I was laying on my hip, and the baby was much happier that way as well. In the middle of the night, we ended up calling the anesthesiologist back in, and she turned it up. But she said the problem was at this point is that my body was progressing so fast that the epidural just couldn't keep up with me, so it was just going to be painful, which ended up being another blessing in disguise because I could just feel everything that was going on, and I think it really helped me have the delivery that I've always wanted as well. So it was about 6 in the morning that I felt baby entering the birth canal, and we called the midwives in, and they were really surprised that I could feel her down there. They're like, "Are you sure?" And so they checked me again. They said, "You are at a 9, almost ready to push. This is great." And so I was so happy about it. I was in tons of pain, but I was just really happy that I had gotten to that point. My hip and my back were hurting so badly because I was laying on them, and that's just a really unnatural position to labor in. So I called them in, and I was telling them that I just needed some, like, the stronger epidural or something, and she asked if I would like to just start trying to push, because that might help alleviate some of the pain, to push with the contractions. And it was amazing. Like, as soon as I started pushing, so much of the pain went away. It was really crazy how much the pain went away to just push, like, work with the contractions rather than just going through them. Anyway, so I just remember at about 6:30 is when I started pushing. It was just the experience that I've always hoped it would be. The lights were dim. It was a midwife who was delivering my baby. Daniel was right beside me. Just the encouraging words, like, she told me she could see the baby's head. She could see a little curl of black hair. Just things like that that made me just want to keep going even more. And up to this point, we still had no idea if it was a boy or a girl, and I was just so convinced that we were going to be an all-boy family. So when they announced it was a girl, I was just in shock, but we are so happy she's a girl, and she's been dressed in pink every single day because she's a girl. Daniel ended up cutting the cord. They just wiped her off a little bit and gave her back to me. They don't bathe the babies at this hospital because apparently the white stuff that they have on them when they're born is really very protective for their skin, and it's really good for them, so they just kind of rub it in. And so up until her first bath, she just had this most beautiful baby smell about her, and I can't even describe it. It was just such a sweet smell. Oh my goodness, and I'm just so in love with her. Recovery is going really well. This time around I feel so much better. I think within 1 week I felt as good as I did 7 weeks into recovering from the C-section. I love being a mama of 2 kiddos. My mama heart is just so happy and so full. I love, like, I have so much joy like seeing 2 of them. I just love it so much. Anyways, so that's the end of my labor and delivery story. If I had picked my perfect labor and delivery story, that would be this. I was just an amazing experience that I'll always remember, and I just couldn't be happier with how everything turned out. I'm just so thankful for everything, and that even something like switching hospitals at the last minute was something I was just not happy to do, turned out to be such a blessing, and that was all the Lord, and I'm just so thankful for that. I can't believe I'm a mom of 2 now, and I'm just loving every minute of it. I'm so happy with both of my blessings. Anyways, I just want to leave you with the message that if you had a very hard pregnancy or a delivery that left you traumatized, don't be fearful, because your next one could be great, and don't let that hold you back from experiencing joy and like having more kiddos and all of that, because you just don't know. You could be totally missing out on something amazing. So I will leave you with that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you liked this video by giving it a thumbs up. I am so happy I was able to introduce you to my little daughter, who is just such a sweetheart. Anyways, I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day wherever you are, and I will see you all in my next video. I have a lot of fun vlogs coming for you guys, so I'll see you all very soon. Bye!